I want to thank David and Danny. So if you feel like you're seeing double, you're not. We have these great gentlemen here, identical twins. And what I'm going to do is I'd love to have the guys give us an overview of themselves. I do know that we have a slightly different colored orange shirt, so it might be a little bit easier to tell. One's got a headset on, one does not. I kind of feel like, you ever see those drawings like on Facebook where there's a photo and it says find the differences between these photos. I'm also seeing, like Danny doesn't have the plants in the background that David's got, so there is a little bit of difference there. So hopefully I got most of them right. Gentlemen, if you would love, we'd love to have you give us each of you an intro of yourselves. That would be great.
Love to. Thank you so much, Dan,
Oh,
for
you're on mute, David.
am I still on mute here? It's not showing me to be on mute.
I can hear you.
I can hear you both, but I don't know
Yeah,
why.
we can hear him.
I can hear
Okay,
David.
everybody can hear me but Dan?
Yep.
Dan, I think the entire show can hear us.
Yep. Go for it.
All right, I'll go for it. I don't want Dan over there struggling here. But my twin and I are thrilled to be here. Thank you so much
Everybody
for the
able to hear
invitation.
David okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
so it's just me. Keep on going.
Yeah, take
It's just you, Dan. You're
Take
special.
the cotton out of your ears, Dan.
I'm transferring my technology features to you. So
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll keep going and hopefully he'll get that worked out, the kinks worked out so he can join us. But I am David Suk Brown, one half of the twins here. We are both trainers and coaches. We run an organization to focus specifically in the technology sector on helping
So,
leaders.
David, pardon my interruption, but I'm
Yes.
assuming because you started out that you're the older twin,
I
maybe
am
by a
actually
few
not
seconds.
the older.
Uh-oh.
I'm not the older.
So,
My
Danny,
brother
you
and I,
delegated duties
he,
to him,
he
huh?
did delegate. He did delegate. And the way we work this, Jay, it's interesting. Depending on the project or what we're focused on, he'll either give me the cue to take the lead or he'll take the lead and I kind of follow. So prior to just jumping in, he said, Dave, take the lead and we'll work back and forth on that. And that's pretty much what we do with our training and our podcast programs. We do the same thing. So,
Cool.
but just to follow up on that, Jay, we are both corporate trainers, speakers, authors, podcasters, and we are passionate about helping leaders to increase their influence, strengthen their voices, because there's nothing better than to be able to share your idea, your concept, your product, your service in a way that gets others to listen, and to lean in. Okay, now I'm hearing the echo, Dan.
Getting an
All right.
echo now?
Nope, we're good to go. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's anything you want me to add, Brownie. Danny, if you want to go, I would say that the only thing I would add is that we're both located here in Austin, Texas. And there's nothing like great brisket and barbecue here in the South.
There you go.
Yeah, great job, David. And it makes podcasting easier when we're both in the same city. Danny Suk Brown, the other half, we are former MSP owners. Like most of the people in this room owned an MSP for 8.5 years before selling it. Also owned at VAR. And now I own a company that trains people in the MSP space. And our goal is all about helping you articulate what you know to people who don't understand you. And so we're really excited about what we do. We're excited the fact that we wrote a book and we actually give the book away to some conferences. We actually allow people to use it in their peer groups, but it is exciting to be here. Dan, thanks for inviting us to your amazing group. A lot of the people in the room we already know. Brian, awesome to see you again. Frank as well. Thank you for this opportunity. But yes, what we do is we take technical individuals and we turn them into a presence of articulating ways that people can understand them. So we're excited about it.
That's awesome. And I think it's a critical topic, for as entrepreneurs, especially as entrepreneurs that are in the technical space. We are, we are very good at what we do from a technical perspective, but communication is an area that I think regardless of what business you're in, anything you can do to improve your communication skills, it's worth its weight in gold, right?
Certainly. I mean, if you think about it for what we do, where we are, how we communicate defines our leadership. And this soft skill that we're talking about, being able to increase your influence, it's business critical. We're not just talking about being able to convey an idea. We're talking about building trust, inspiring your teams, the ability to influence decision-making. This is important. And this is why we're so passionate about it.
Absolutely. So let's just kick things off and have you, go down the path of, from a topic perspective, on this topic perspective. I'm going to let you guys just kind of take over for a little bit, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A and an open discussion.
Oh, great. I will definitely take the lead here in setting a couple of things out there for you to think about. We go to a lot of these tech conferences, and we just got back from a couple of great ones. And we go to these conferences, we're inspired by a lot of the leaders, the innovation, the ideas. But then when you go in there and you're listening to these breakout sessions, you're listening to the keynotes, literally you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I could have just read that myself, or I could have just gotten and had a conversation about that myself. Because what you're seeing, or hearing rather, is that the majority of those speakers cannot convey ideas in a way that makes sense or in a way that can connect. They look nervous, they look uncertain. And so you think to yourself, why are they rambling? Why are they going off track? Why are they relying on their deck and not looking at us as we're here in the audience, focus on them? If they cannot organize their idea, speak with a way that sounds clear, that's filled with passion, that's relatable, then why are they up there? Far too many deals are lost because we can't convey our ideas. Far too many opportunities are lost because we don't know how to communicate and listen with intention. And this is why we believe in our sector. It's so important because we have some of the brightest minds, the best leaders here, but this is a skill that often isn't invested in. It's a skill that's often not gone after as something to be improved upon. And if you really think about it, it adds to your value. The great Warren Buffett said himself, it was the most important leadership skill, and that it could increase your value by 50%. We're talking about literally your perception, your presence, your conversations. This is what we do, and we do it on different platforms. Literally, we do it in different ways, and that could be anywhere from just coming on our LMS platform, going through our courses on everything from executive presence. How do you tell a story? How do you give an elevator pitch? How do you introduce yourself? It could be on that level. It also could involve peer groups where you get with other leaders, like level responsibility. And then the third level could be with actual coaching, where we work through real examples of when you would need to elevate your voice, whether it's through a one-on-one meeting or through a corporate meeting, or if you're getting on an actual stage. It's our goal for every one of our clients, everyone who goes through our program, to look at whatever stages they're part of and say, I want to get on them. So those are some of the things that we do with the way that our organization works.
Excellent. So, one of the things that you mentioned is the ability to properly communicate, or I should say, if you're not properly communicating, you could lose a deal. And again, we know that good old saying that, about first impressions, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's so critical. So can we talk a little bit about, us living in a tech world where we're so used to wearing that tech hat. However, we need to communicate to business owners, business leaders in a way that's focused on the business outcome. And how do we communicate in a way that's going to, allow us to be to articulate it properly, capture their attention, keep their attention, and help them to see us not as technologists, but somebody that can help them drive their business forward?
That's a great question. And Dan, if you don't mind, Danny, I'll start with this. It's important that you find connection. No one cares about your jargon if you're not talking in their language. And we already know that people don't want to be sold to, they want to buy. You've got to be willing to connect with your intended audience, know their background, know what their whys are, and then let them talk. Let them get everything out in the open, what their pain points are, what their expectations are, what they've tried, what they're hoping for. And the more you're getting them comfortable speaking, getting open, the easier it is going to be for you to make those connections. And that, to me, is more important than anything else. Throw out the terminology, the acronyms, everything else, figure out how to speak with them on a way or in a way that they're going to receive what you say. Once you do that, you're going to win more deals. The other thing I'll add is this. When you're speaking, there are keys to having a successful conversation, and maybe Dan will cover that. But don't forget to be confident and be present. If they see you as someone who's thinking about what you're going to say next, or you're jumping ahead of them, quote unquote, they're not going to stay engaged. You've got to be present with where they are. So, Dan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, great job. When you talk about being present and you're talking about connecting, it helps when you speak their lingo. And there's so many MSPs that we coach and work with. And when I say, give me your ideal client profile, what does the ideal client look like? It's all over the place. And if you have clients all over the place, that means you're not speaking their lingo. You're not talking the industry language. And if you're not doing those things, they'll never look at you as a value-added consultant. And that's still going to be so key when you're selling the space. One of the things that Brian Doyle does very well, he's on the call with his group, is he actually helps MSPs to understand how to speak in a way where they're consultative. And you have to be able to speak their language. I can't tell how many times you speak with somebody in the legal industry and you don't know the terms. You speak with people in the healthcare industry, you know nothing about the healthcare conference, the HIMSS conference, you know nothing about any of those things. If you're speaking to a client and you're not speaking their language, they won't give you the time of the day. So I'll give you a good example when I'm with my daughter. And I'm a traveling gymnastics dad. I go to all her tournaments. We were in Florida not too long ago, and I have to speak the lingo. I'm one of the few dads there amongst all the mothers, and I'm there speaking the lingo. If I don't speak the lingo, they're going to look at me like, why are you here? So as soon as I speak the lingo and I'm able to articulate the move that she just did on the vault, now everyone's looking at me, wow, wait a minute, this guy knows a little bit something about what I do. And now I have their attention. Now that I captured their attention, I have their presence and I'm present with them. It's going to give me the opportunity to build the rapport. A lot of times we want to sell. Do not try to sell. Build the rapport, build the connection, speak their lingo. As soon as you speak their lingo, you have them drawn in. And so technical people, we don't have to sell everything off the bus, right? When I first started my career and I worked for IBM and I worked for Dell and I worked for EMC, I used to always do speeds and feeds. I would talk about the storage system, the back-end connectivity, how fast we're getting throughputs. I would talk about the processor and the speed of the processor, how we can overclock the processor. And the clients are looking at me, I don't care about that. That's not my concern. My concern is if I buy your product, will it cause me to look good in my organization or will I get fired because it doesn't work? And so it's very important that we speak their lingo, understand what's important to them. And when we do that, we form a connection, we form the trust, and that allows us to move forward. So don't try to sell on the first connection and the first meeting, guys. Trust me, it's not going to be worth it when you try to do sales plans later on down the road.
And I think asking the right questions in that area, for example, I love to ask about their mission statement. I love to ask about what are their goals and objectives. And, the more we ask about those things, it just gives us that ammunition to take that next, to open up that next conversation, to ask those next questions. If we don't do that, then we will be rambling. We won't know what we need to talk about. And let's face it, this is about them, not about us.
Well,
That is
then,
so
then
true.
even when the first question's got to be, why are you even talking to me? Right? Why are you
Yeah.
interested in, are you dissatisfied or you have a problem? And that starts the asking the questions and listening to what they need. So
100%. I will go back to, many, many years ago, we had an organization doing some cold calling for us. And I remember, having some of the notes from the call, but sitting, across the table from the decision maker. And I said, so tell me, what was it that during that call that prompted you to, have me come out and meet with you? And the first thing the gentleman said was, "Well, your guy told me I should meet with you." And that was it. So long story short, we quickly discovered that there was nothing there. Now, unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, that is, those kind of scenarios should be very far and in between, right? But asking that question, like Frank said, you know, then what direction to take, and what are going to be some of those trigger areas. And I think that whole speak the lingo, we do know the technical lingo, but it's the business lingo that, we're going to want to talk about. We're going to want to talk about, where are, their challenges? What, are there areas of efficiency, productivity? Maybe there's some bottlenecks, the client experience for their clients, maybe their employees experience, what are those things that, are, a thorn in their side that allows us to control that conversation and take it to the next level.
That makes a lot of great sense there, Dan. I think the thing that I challenge leaders is try not to talk for the first 5 to 7 minutes. And if you can, ask that one extra question. Be the Columbo. You guys remember Lieutenant Columbo? Say, one more thing, one more thing. If you could get to that one more question, that might be the very thing that opens up the opportunity.
And it is, we all know we feel like we need to fill the void. And
yes, that's so true.
And it might be just a few more seconds that they needed to think through what they want to say, what they want to communicate, but we feel like we have to just jump in and say something because that silence is difficult for us, and it's okay, right? Can we talk a little bit more about that silence?
Oh, I love that you brought it up. Go ahead, Dan. I see you wanted to say something.
Absolutely. The silence can be used in two ways. One, it allows you to collect your thoughts and look more powerful. A lot of times we are speaking and we like to use these filler words. And filler words are more of like, we got to get rid of that. The filler words, if we remove them, allows us to be powerful. So when you're silent, you're giving the audience a chance to absorb what you're saying, but it gives you an opportunity to think. The second thing it does when you're in an audience or with your potential client, when you're silent, you're giving them an opportunity to reflect on what you just said. You're giving them an opportunity to think to themselves, wait a minute, I better pay attention. I can't gloss this over. This individual said something. He or she's going to expect a response from me. I better pay attention. And it also makes you look like a subject matter expert where you don't have to fill the void. You allow them to think things through and get back with you. Sometimes they'll even come back and say, oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again? I think I'm lost, or I think I might have misunderstood something. And it always works out to your benefit. So don't be afraid to use the silence. Silence is a very powerful tool, and it works both ways. One, for you to give you a chance to collect your thoughts. It gives you an opportunity to respond in a way that helps the client understand that you heard them, because sometimes they ask you a question and the last thing you want to do is give a response right away and they say, hey, this guy's making it up. You may want to be silent and say, wow, that's a powerful question.
Silence also works well in marriage.
Yes, dear, and that works even better. So I just say yes, dear.
There sounds like a man with experience right there, Jay. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing with silence, a lot of times, when we're having a discussion, we don't see those verbal cues, or verbal or those body language cues where, you wonder, do they even want to be here? You feel like, okay, they're not saying anything, they're not responding. I'm not feeling like they're engaged at all. How do we handle those type of situations where they're not talking back?
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a great question, Dan. And before I respond to that directly, I'll share something that was alluded to by you earlier. And that's really the keys to having successful conversations. Okay. Number one, you got to look at the words that you're using. My brother talked about speaking in their language, learning to use their verbiage, the tonality with which you're speaking. And if you've been married a long time or you have children, you know the point I'm making about having the right tone. And then the last point is your body language. If you're able to master these three, you're going to be able to increase your opportunities to have a successful outcome. Now, back to your point about what to read and what to look for.
Yes, marriage is also like the movie War Games. The only way to win is not to play.
Yes, yes. Don't play. I'm not going there with you. That's true. I think the thing to keep in mind about cues is you got to know what to look for. Is there the crossing of their arms? Is there the hands in the pocket? Are they looking away when you're talking with them? The thing that you could do, there's a couple of tricks you could do. One is called mirroring. I'm not saying do this intentionally, make it drastic in terms of your movement, but if you see them cross their arms, start to cross your arms too. If you see them leaning back, maybe lean back a little. You see them lean forward, lean forward. What this would do, it'll get them to think, okay, what's going on here? Let me get engaged. It shows that you're in tune with their rhythm and you want to get them out of the space that they're in. So that's one tip that you could try if you're sensing that. The other thing you could do is you could actually do what is called a pattern interrupt. You can say something to the effect of, hey, Dan, I can see that may not be hitting you just right, or that may not be of interest to you. I'm just going to take a wild stab at this. Am I on the right page here? What that will do is get them back into the conversation. They may say, no, you're perfectly right, Dave. You're right. Okay, great. I'm glad we're on the same page. Or they may say, hey, Dave, I really wasn't interested in that point. This is really what the conversation should be centered around. Now you've got them engaged and you could get focused on the right track. So you've got to look for those things and don't be afraid to say what you're thinking, but do it in a way that's respectful. I sense something's off, or I see that we may not be on the same page. If you do that, it gives them permission to bring you back into the right focus of the conversation. Danny, anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. Sometimes it works when you have a pet. So I don't know if you guys ever seen Caesar, and a dog's barking, and what he'll do with his leg is kick the back of the dog's tail or the back end of the dog's butt, and the dog will stop and say, wait, what's going on? And forget why it's barking. It works with kids as well. And daughter's having a tantrum. She didn't hit her vault the way she wanted to hit, and she's just like losing it. Man, I'm not going to do well, Dad. I'm not going to get a 9 for it or whatever. And I'll just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get some ice cream. What? Yeah, well, if you place in top 5, they give you you win a certificate, you win a medal, but they also give you ice cream. Do you remember that? Oh yeah, Dad, I love ice cream. Hey, look, right now where things are sitting, you're at your 6. Okay, let's go back and do the vault. Boom, let's get up there. Let's place top 5. You got it? Yeah, I got it. Just redirecting, and it works well with clients as well. The client doesn't like what you're saying, doesn't like the quote, doesn't like the proposal. Redirect them, and that really works wonders. And one of the ways you redirect them, if you do a analysis of your client before you meet with them, what is the industry saying? What is the organization saying? What did the CEO say? How their business is doing? What was the latest standard? Maybe a cybersecurity threat happened in their industry, something that's going on, new policy, new rule. Before we go forward, do you remember what XYZ just said about the policy? How does that affect you going forward? I heard all accountants have to be able to do penetration testing twice a year or whatever it may be. Have you done that yet? And then just change it, topic, change the conversation, whatever. Oh man, I can't wait to get home. My wife is saying if I'm late tonight, I'm going to lose out on a nice warm dinner, whatever, and then get back into it. And so redirecting, what it does, it just lowers people's guard. They're very self-protected. It works wonders. And it doesn't have to do anything with the conversation, and then you get back into it.
So we talked about mirroring. Can that mirroring, by doing that, work in the reverse way, where all of a sudden they're starting to mirror you, where they become more engaged?
That's
Yes,
what you
for
want.
sure.
That's
That
what you
to
want.
me is when you got it. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. If you feel stuck, smile. If they smile back, you've got them. Or when you're trying to get agreement, very casually do this. If you see their head start to nod, you've got them. So yes, it can be done in the reverse.
I think that goes to, the good old saying that attitudes are contagious, right?
It certainly is 100%. 100%. It's that old adage of people can feel your smile through the phone. They don't
Yeah.
have to see, they can know if your spirit, your attitude, if you know that your energy's there, they feel that. So I definitely agree with you 100%.
So anybody that has questions, please feel free to jump in with any questions that you have. I want to talk a little bit about storytelling, and specifically about something that you guys just mentioned about maybe similar things that are happening. So let's say you're working with a CPA firm and you have other CPA firms where, you're not going to get into specific details or sensitive information, but when you start to paint a picture or tell a story about something that maybe other CPA firms that have experienced, just kind of filling them out and seeing if, they've experienced the same, but also it helps them to connect that what they're going through.
Absolutely. When you think
100%.
about any technical industry, any non-technical technical industry, You talked about building that connectivity, building that rapport. If you're effectively telling a process or methodology in a way that gets them involved, that's a form of transforming what you're doing. So, for example, you talk about CPA firms. If you're speaking in a way that engages them because you understand that they do something that's very complex, they do something that deals with a lot of money at times, have something to do with the IRS, all these things. Now you put it together and say, look, here's what really happened with this client of mine. And because you know, as an MSP, all I do is work with CPAs. That's all I do. And 100% of my clients, 100% of the issues they work with, here's what I've done for them in the past. And I guarantee you, the top three things that I've dealt with on a repetitive basis, one of these three things you're probably going through right now. And here are the three things I hear all the time. Are one of these three things you're going through? It is? Okay, great. So let me tell you about this personal experience I had with the CPA. And by making it personal, and they say, do you know this person? Have you ever been to this conference? No, I don't know the person, but I know the firm. I've heard of the firm before. I've been to that conference every year. I'm sure you guys ran into each other many times. Actually, I'm going to the conference later on this year as well. So by telling this process of a story, it allows them to share that experience with you. Storytelling is all about getting people to share that experience with you, getting them to say, yes, you get me, you know me, you understand me. And tell me more. It's creating that narrative that you understand the industry, that you understand what they go through every day, and that you're not just here to sell technology, you're not just here to sell a service, that you understand them. Once they feel that you get them, they're much more willing to work with you. So storytelling builds trust, it drives action, because at the end of the conversation, we always ask ourselves, why haven't I heard back from that client? Because you didn't really build the trust, you didn't really build that connectivity, and because of that, you weren't able to drive that action. And when you do all those things, that's what storytelling does. It focuses on the audience and makes them say, you get me, tell me more.
Excellent.
Couldn't add anything else to that, Dan, other than maybe make the point that in every conversation, there needs to be some element of a story. Your brand, your website, your marketing collateral, all of that is a part of storytelling. Your elevator pitch is a part of storytelling. Your VC pitch is a part of storytelling. And it's important to make sure that your audience feels as if they're a part of that story. And if they see themselves within the story, then they want to connect with you and perhaps understand your solution set or understand how you can bring value to what they're trying to do.
Excellent. And and when it comes to storytelling, I think the use of analogies can go a long way in helping them to understand. Um, Sometimes, when we talk about the complexity of maybe what we're trying to accomplish for them, and again, not a technical perspective, but more from a business outcome perspective, using analogies can help connect the dots, especially if you feel that they might not be on the same page. So, can you kind of expand on that and the use of analogies?
Ooh, this is a good one. I'll tell you what's interesting. We were at PaxState Beyond, Dan, if you remember, and I spent some time with one of their executives, the CRO there, and he is from Texas. And so we just making that connection. Hey, no one knows what a Texas Twinkie is. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I miss those Texas Twinkies. I don't know what that is exactly. And then you break down that potential barrier, that wall, and then we get in this conversation. It's just an incredible conversation. It's just something simple as that.
Yeah.
You're figuring out a way to make that connection. And I think that's why it's so important. Many of us might remember when we were younger, and I think this was more like in middle school, you had those little adventure books where if you make this decision, you're going down this path. If you decide you want to do this decision, they say flip the page. You remember that, Dan? You flip to this page. And if you're engaged in your audience or engaged with a potential client and you're having that conversation, you're going to know based on what they say where to take that story. And that's how they get involved. That's how they get connected. But here's the trick. You got to be very authentic. You cannot sound robotic. You cannot sound like you've said this script a million times. It's got to be sincere and genuine to them. And if you could do that, I believe without a doubt, you're going to be able to have more of an opportunity to win those deals.
Yeah, I think to add on what Dave is saying, when we think about the analogy, why we even have our clients understand why they need cybersecurity awareness training. For example, you may say, okay, you have a house, and in your house, you may say, look, if you go through the front door, you need a key. But are there other ways to break into someone's house? Can you go through the window? Can you go through the fireplace chimney? Can you go through the back door? Can you go through the garage? There are multiple ways to gain entrance into your house. Is there a key underneath the doormat? So we also do the same thing when we work with CPA firms. You may say, look, when you think about your house, is your house financially in order? Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have an insurance policy in case you live in Florida and you have a hurricane, or you live in Texas, Houston, you have a hurricane? Maybe you live in the middle of the United States and have a lot of tornadoes? Do you have long-term investments in case something happens? Do you have a life insurance plan? All these things help that CPA to be able to sit down and articulate to the business owner, do you have a financial plan in case you die? Do you have a financial plan for your business if you want to sell? Maybe you want 3x, 4x, 5x multiples. What will that look like? So by creating that analogy from a CPA perspective is financial plan, or do you have equity in your house? Do you need to refinance? Do you have an insurance policy? Do you have long-term investment? That's the analogy from a financial plan for a house. But from our side of the house, talking to clients, to even do cybersecurity awareness training, just the basic minimum, we may also use the same analogy of a house as well, going through the front door, the back door, the window, the garage. These are all going to be entries of access, if that makes sense.
Yeah, those are great stories, and I think too, one that I've used in the past is, you might see that they've got a photo of their family, and maybe they've got some teenage, children or grandchildren, and I've used the story of my son or daughter, had recently gone through driver's training, and you think about that they're getting behind that vehicle that might be like a 2-ton vehicle, and you wouldn't want to just give them the keys to that car and let them drive away without proper training, without going through the necessary training. And I liken that to, if you have a new employee and they're sitting at the desk and you give them a username and password to that computer, it's like them getting behind the wheel of a vehicle without any kind of training. And that's where security awareness training is so critical. And, and it just helps to connect those dots. It just helps them to think about it in a different way. And I love that. Now, let's talk about technicians. We're often, we got mostly business owners in here. We all have employees. And let's face it, we as technologists don't have, most people have this stereotype of who we are and how we communicate and how maybe our technicians communicate. And I think the amount of time that we spend on trying to improve our communication skills is just as important as our technicians or any of our staff, sales staff, technical staff, operations staff, help desk, et cetera, et cetera. Let's jump into that area.
Absolutely. I'll take the lead on it. One of the great things that we've done in our organization is we've taken the executive presence, public speaking for every single individual in the organization, from a marketing person, help desk, sales. It doesn't matter what your role is. Everyone needs to be able to articulate in a way that's clear, concise, and makes sense. A great example is we had a warehouse manager during a meeting told one of the employees, hey, look, I need those bricks moved to the back so that we can load them up in a semi later on this afternoon. I need it done by 3. That's all the person said. Here it is. A couple hours later, meeting's done, came back from lunch, and there were still 2.5 pallets worth of bricks. And scratching his head, hey, what's going on? Well, you told me to move the bricks. I moved the bricks. He's moving a couple of bricks at a time. Instead of going to get the forklift and then taking it over and being done in a matter of 20 minutes at the most. So he gave the instruction, but it wasn't clear. And so a lot of times we believe that we're saying the right thing, technical people to non-technical people on our own internal team, but it's not clear to them. In our minds, it's clear. How do you not understand that? It's so obvious. What do you mean it doesn't make sense? You don't know what's utilization your laptop? It really just do Control Alt Delete and just go ahead and pull up Task Manager. Just let's go see what's going on. I don't know what you're talking about. So it's even internal employees have to realize that there is power if you can communicate in a way that they understand. Communication is a two-way street. You have to make sure that when you speak, they have the right receptors that they can interpret what you're saying. And if they don't, it won't make sense. So we believe that every level of the organization needs communication skills, even technical people who interact with your clients. How can you have an MSP and have a help desk, a knock, a SOC, and not train them on public speaking and not communication skills when they're talking to your clients who at the end of the day, if they don't have a 3-year contract with you, they're looking to leave as fast as possible because of the way your technician made them feel like they're an idiot, they're not smart, they're not intelligent. When in reality, that's not what he or she said, but that's the way it came across. So it's very important that all individuals in the organization are trained, and we created tracks for everyone, even technical people who would like to go into sales and become a sales engineer. And that's actually how I went into sales. I started off as a network engineer. I have a network engineering background. I began my career as a network engineer, designing central office systems. And then I transitioned over into sales as a sales engineer and then became full sales after that. So it is a possibility, but every employee, from the CEO all the way down to the entry level employee, everyone needs to be in a position where they're being trained on how to communicate effectively.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a direct correlation, a direct connection between client satisfaction and our communication ability. Um, we've all have had, I would suspect, that one technician that is very technical, and if you were to say something that essentially is one, you go down one path, and it means the same thing, but they have to correct the client because technically
Yeah.
that's not correct. Scary stuff, right?
It is, it can be. I'll put it this way, Dan, but as my twin said, with the right type of training and support, they should not be in that position where they're doing that. Or at least we hope not.
Right.
And so that's why it's important. The thing I would always say is don't be afraid to remember the power of the pause, as well as to be able to give back to them something along the lines of a response of, let me get back to you with that. You know, what you're saying or what we're engaging is so important, not only for your organization to be set up correctly and to make sure you're protected, but I want to make sure we're doing right by you. And so let me get back to you on that. They will always appreciate it, especially if you get right back to them. But there are ways I would say you can navigate that.
It's okay not to have the right answer, or it's okay not to have the answer, I should say.
You know what I say, Dan, all the time? Let me turn around, I'll come back again. And you know, that's me like acting like my twin, and maybe you'll like the answer I give this time. But that's true. You may not always have the right answer, but
Right.
it's okay to say, let me get back to you. You have to be willing to do that.
All right, we have some questions out there. Do we have any questions out there? I feel
I would be interested, Dan, to see if every person in this meeting, in this call, if they've taken to a stage anywhere, whether they've spoken at a conference, maybe they've spoken at a breakout or a workshop.
Yeah.
I know some of them have because I know them. But if you're not, what's holding you back? And I'm not talking about that stage, whatever stage you're on. Maybe you're a business owner, you don't even want to speak to your own teams. I had a client like that in the state of Maryland, and it impacted their business. And so working through coaching and training, they realized in 12 months later that their retention ratio went way up. People wanted to be there. They felt believed in because their leaders spoke to them. And the turnover ratio went way down. You know, we talked about that, and people were elevated in positions of influence. So these things do happen. I would be intrigued to find out if leaders here on this call are willing and they look forward to speaking opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who was that?
Eric.
Eric, you have been, are you currently president of your local chamber, or you were the past president?
No, have been three times actually, but yeah.
So you've
in the past, Rotary.
Yeah. I mean, so those are opportunities for you to be on stage. So stage doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, you're at a big conference and you've got a couple thousand people. It could mean that there's 15, 20 people in front of you.
Yeah, 15, 20, 100.
Yeah.
And I was terrible at it. But
when Eric's usually on stage, it's about 15 or 20 people tipping them single dollar bills.
No, man, I get tip fives now. There is usually a poll involved too. So
there you go. So
it
Eric,
requires a very specific audience, though.
when you've gone on stage, like the first time that you did it, you know, you said that you were terrible at it, but you might not have been quite as bad as that you thought, right? Because we're our own worst critics. But also what?
Oh no, I saw a recording. It was terrible.
Okay.
Lots of ums and ahs and the
Sure.
hell am I gonna say now? But
So what did you do to overcome that?
practice, practice, practice.
You didn't run away from it, right?
No, well, that's not really an option. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So
So, David, Danny, what, for someone that is wanting to get on stage, and again, that could just mean, you're going to be speaking at a chamber event, maybe not as a president, like in Eric's case, but they're given an opportunity for you to be able to speak about, cybersecurity threats that are occurring. They're giving you the ability to speak about AI, incredible opportunities to be able to get that exposure. But if you've not done that before, now thankfully, because of the world of COVID, we have all, I think, have spoken a lot more, and it's on camera. It might just be to a small group of peers, but that's helped us. What are other things that we can do to make ourselves better and feel comfortable and confident getting out there on stage, whatever that stage may be?
Well, let me first of all say, Dan, I do appreciate the way you framed that. Your stage could be just a one-on-one conversation. It could be speaking with the board. All those things are important. And I love what Eric did. He said, look, I'm going to get better at it because I said I'm going to get better at it. And you practice, practice, practice. Here are a couple tips to keep in mind when you're thinking about how do I get better? How to become more effective as a speaker? I'm going to give you something that's so simple. We do this with our clients. Record yourself giving a presentation. We only need 4 to 5 minutes. It could be an elevated pitch of 30 seconds. Record it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to turn the volume all the way up and you're going to put that phone face down. And then you're going to listen to yourself. And you're going to ask yourself, was I convinced by what I said? Was I clear? And the thing you want to do is only note one area for improvement. That's it. Because our nature is want to be overly critical and point out all things we've done wrong. No, just one area you want to improve. That's all you're going to give yourself permission. And I do this intentionally. And you want to highlight all the things you felt like you did great. I used that story in the right way. I felt like my tonality went up. My pace of my speech was excellent. And then after they do that, what we ask them to do is now pick up their phone, turn the volume all the way down or mute yourself, and just watch the recording you have of yourself. And then you're going to ask yourself, did I believe based on the body language? Did I look like I was confident? Did I look like I was engaged? And you only want to jot one area you want to improve. Maybe it's don't have my arms crossed. Don't put my hands in my pocket. Make sure I'm opening up myself. Maybe smile a little bit more. Then you can highlight all the things you've done well. So the goal of this is before your upcoming talk, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, you would have refined that message to where you feel great about everything that you're doing. You feel great about how you sound, how you look. Then when you hit that stage, whether it's a group of one-on-one or whether it's a group of 10 or at a chamber event, you're going to love the result. Practice, 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 but practice the right way, and you're going to do great when you get on that stage.
Absolutely.
Can I add something to that?
Please,
You know,
Jay.
you mentioned, to practice, listen to yourself. One of the things that kind of was tripping me early on when I got on stage with a microphone is hearing my own voice through the speakers, because you don't sound like you sound in your head when you're talking.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Sometimes that can happen. I'll say that you got to get used to that and realize that you may not, and by the way, most of us here, unless you're Barry White or something like that, you don't always love the sound of your voice. you we know this because you take pictures, you're just like, I don't know if I like that picture either. But what you're going to do is get used to the sound of your voice. And you're going to learn how to use that to sharpen the areas of your presentation. So yeah, you may not love the sound of your voice, but you got to get used to it.
Absolutely.
Well, I absolutely hate hearing my voice playback. I absolutely hate it. And I recently had a couple people at a couple recent conferences say, "You have the great radio voice," and I just started laughing because I'm
You
like,
got a great face for radio too.
That's
Yep.
exactly what was going into my mind. I'm like, so I have the face for radio, then you're saying. But You know, and we don't hear our voice, you know, through our ears the same way others hear it, and we
Yeah.
have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. I want to just say 2 points. One is, as Dave said, focus on one thing. We have a tendency to think something, and our brain says, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and they find ways to prove it. So if we focus on all the bad things, your brain will
Yeah,
say, this is the reason why. And you're absolutely right. You can't do this. You can't do that. If we focus on one positive thing and we concentrate on it and we work to get better on it, the brain will continue to say, hey, it doesn't matter if you mess up. You are awesome. Here's the reason why. Do you remember this? And this is
right.
going to really help you propel forward when you start to speak. The second thing is when you think about communication, the reason why Dave said turn the volume all the way down. We believe in our minds that we think the words that we say are the most valuable thing when it comes to communication. There's three things you need to look at, and there's a fourth thing that in our book we talk about. It's your words, it's the voice or tone of what you say, and it's your body language. The last thing is confidence, right? That's the bonus element. But when you look at your words, only 7% of your words matter when it comes to communication. The way you have your tone. If I tell a story, once upon a time, Prince came in, saved it. My daughter's like, what are you doing, Dad? Say it like you mean it. Hey, once upon a time, there was this powerful king, and this prince came in. Now they're, whoa, that's 38%. The next thing is the body language. Is my body language talking? Once upon a time. That's so crucial. And so when Dave says turn the volume down, are you convinced by looking at your own body language that I want to buy from you? I want to listen to you. I want to pay attention to you. Try it with your kids. Just try saying something with your kids with no tone, arms crossed like you're mad at them, and see what they say. Now do it again with your arms open like you're inviting, and make your pitch really high and make your face wide and your smile and your eyes wide and see what happens. So as David said, the thing you need to work on is listen to yourself. Yes, I don't like listening to myself. It's hard for me to listen to our podcast because I'm listening to my own voice when it's my brother's voice, but it sounds just like me. And then turn it down. Hey, were we convinced? Did our expressions articulate what we just said? And did I open myself up to the audience or did I close myself up to the audience? Those things are so going to be so very important.
Do we have any questions out there?
What do you guys do when you get nervous? I don't think I've ever met anybody that would tell me, if they're honest, that they never get nervous. What do you do to overcome your own nerves?
Make jokes about Jay.
Make jokes.
That's just opening up a can of worms.
I
Right.
like that.
Well, then it becomes a comedy show stand up rather than
Yeah,
they probably
Well, I mean, comedy, at least for me.
right.
Hey, infusing that little joke from time to time could be very, very strategic in terms of breaking the tension.
Yeah.
I think
I'll
breathing.
usually like either if I'm getting ready to go on, I'll just like turn around, close my eyes and just take a huge deep breath and just let it out slow and just kind of, okay, I'm just going to go up and talk. It's usually the fear of what people are going to think about you or hear what you say. So if you just, what, it is what it is. We're going to present it, always be better, but get it out what you got to get out.
Absolutely.
Here's one for you, Eric. What do you call a fat psychic? A
Me?
fortune teller.
Oh, I didn't know we were into the dad joke hour.
Oh, geez. Well, I think, breathing helps, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth is also if let's say you're going to be presenting at a chamber event, get there early enough that
Mhm.
you're not, jumping right up on stage so that you can have a discussion with others. And, whether it be, members of the chamber or whoever is putting on an event. So you lost that fear, all that fear that you had because you're having an open conversation with someone and all of a sudden you're just like, okay, you jump right on stage then. And, and also, I tell you, one of the biggest, speaking opportunities that I had was in 97. I was working for Kinko's and our company picnic was out in San Diego and there were 3,000 people there and I was going to be speaking on stage. I had never been more scared in my life because never have I ever spoken to that many people, nowhere even close. We're talking the largest might be 15. And so, what helped for me in this case was when I got up on stage, the lights in the front row up above were so bright, I couldn't even see the first row of people. And so it was like I was talking to nobody. And that made things so much easier for me. Now, it doesn't always happen that way, but but again, I think just having that level of confidence, having conversations before you're ready to go on stage, you forget about what you're fearful of and you just do it. Um,
Yeah,
so
and
before,
I gotta jump on that real quick about your
yeah,
breathing. Breathing is so true. And don't fall for the old wives' tale of take the deepest breaths ever. You will pass out. You want to focus on controlled breathing. You mentioned breathing through the nose, out through the mouth. If you can do that in a rhythm that makes the most sense for you and where you are, 3 second, 4 second intervals, you're going to lower your tension. You're going to lower the heart rate and you're going to be ready to go. So I love that you said that. Thank you for pointing that out because that's exactly what we teach.
absolutely. And speaking of what you guys teach, I would love for you to tell us how we could leverage services you guys offer in what you have available.
Absolutely. If you go to appmeetup.com, we do have a public speaking page where you can actually look at our information. You can actually get access to the book. A lot of times people just want to get the workbook and do the work on their own before they receive coaching. And that's something I would always say, start with that first before you invest hundreds and hundreds of dollars into improving yourself. In that way, find out, is there a free resource, right? Our book is in some libraries, but it is always best to get a copy of the workbook, jot down everything in the workbook, fill it out, and visualize it. And when you do that, that's going to give you the next opportunity to sign up for a public speaking program. We do have peer group public speaking. We have one-on-one coaching, and that's going to help you to the next level. If you mention this podcast, we'll give you an MSP discount, which we have no problem doing. If you meet us at a conference, we will give you quick tips at the conference. A lot of times we have people come on our podcast at a conference or roadshow. And trust me, when we are at an IT Nation event, we're at a PAX 8 Beyond, a Cisco Live, for example, we're at two different conferences at the same time that week. Before people come on, we will actually coach them on the back end, give them a 5-minute coaching session. It's always one of the things that we tell people to do. Never say no to improving yourself. Spend just 18 minutes a day is all we ask people. 18 minutes a day after a course of a year, you're going to be more proficient and better than 90% of the people around the globe, right? So we all know that rule. And so all I'm going to encourage you to do today is, as a technical leader, go get the book, number one. And number two, fill it out and put it into practice just 18 minutes a day. And once you do those two things, jump on board, ask to work with us, and we'll give you a MSP discount. Mention this podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. We do have links for both Danny and David to their LinkedIn. Danny's added the link to the app meetup for the books, and so some great information there. You mentioned that you guys there might be situations where you're both at a conference simultaneously. That's awesome because nobody would know the difference. I mean, you know, it's like, having Santa Claus at two different malls.
So we're probably not giving out those type of gifts,
Right.
but we will give them the voice of us of being on our program and help elevate their influence. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that is awesome. Danny and David, I greatly appreciate the time and all of your knowledge that you provided today. And I'm so glad that David and I, met last week, met at PAX 8 last week, and got you guys lined up for this. So thank you again. I greatly appreciate it.
Honored. Thank you so much for having us on. Appreciate it. Gentlemen,
And
keep speaking.
yes,
So long, everybody.
everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Take care, everybody. Thank you.